بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه تسليما كثيرا اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد فاتح لما أغلق وخاتم لما سبق الناس الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره مقداره العظيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I welcome all of you to the first installment of the series of courses for the Fayda Institute Seminar Series. This is a series that we've launched that inshallah will be for the public viewing for those people who are not necessarily enrolled as a student of knowledge in the Institute, but nonetheless have a curiosity for learning, a curiosity for contemporary topics and relevant topics that will affect the Muslim community at large. So what we've done is we've chosen a topic that coincides with the overall vision and the perspective of Fayda Institute, and that is initiating the tajdeed process, the process of reform and the process of renewal. And as the one who initiated this process, this institute, I was deeply inspired for a long time by the works and the writings of the Shaykh Uthman Danfodio, who was the 19th century Mujaddid and scholar in Hausaland, which is now northern Nigeria. His work had a great impact on me when I was in college. Even before me becoming a Muslim and taking my Shahada, I had read about his life, his movement, his works, and was deeply inspired and very intrigued on his level of scholarship that he had established in Sokoto. And so I carried that with me, and as I grew, it really sparked my interest in other Mujaddideen, such as Al-Hajj Umar Al-Houthi, Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba in Senegal, and others as well. And so I went on and I read and I studied about their lives and their movements, and I carried that with me to this day. This topic, Islamic reform and renewal in the West, I feel is a very important topic, a very needed topic that we need to revisit and rediscuss among the grassroots community, especially in the West. And the reasons for that is that we have entered into a new period of jahiliyyah, a new period of ignorance, where we're seeing new developments happen and spring up every day in the Muslim community, where the definitions or the concepts that we have traditionally had in Islam begin to be influenced by outside forces and begin to be adjusted or changed somewhat by those members of our leadership, those members of who the Muslims look to for being the imams and the du'ats and those callers to Islam. There's a lot of compromise going on, and that didn't sit well with me. And so what motivated me in actuality was to establish something on the basis of what was taught by the Shaykh himself, Shaykh Uthman Danfodio, about the tajdeed process, about the process in which Islam will be renewed and reformed at every age. And there's an age, there's a process that one goes through. And when we study the Islamic movements throughout the past, when we study the Sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, we see a process, a gradual succession of steps that take place where the Muslims get to a point where they can stand on their own. So I have the question as to today's time, what should that process be? What would that process look like? And of course, there's always an issue with the context of time and applying something from history and applying it as it is in the contemporary period. Now, in order to do that, in order to think like that, one has to understand both the context in which it was initiated and the context in which one lives at that particular time. You have to know, in other words, fiqh al-waqi'. Fiqh al-waqi' is what is the understanding of the current events, more or less. Okay? The understanding of current events. And you have to understand the society where you live, the audience of which to whom you're speaking, the mentality of the people, the politics going on at that particular time and area, before one gives fatwa, before one becomes an imam and leads people, and otherwise, then you will be taking something from the past that no longer exists and trying to reinvigorate it in the present time, which wouldn't work. And Islam is a deen that it's fluid. So though it was revealed over 1,400 years ago, it's a fluid deen. So it's for all times, for all people, and it doesn't change. And that's one of the miracles, I believe, one of the divine miracles of the deen, is that you're able to take it as it is and apply it to all times and all people, and it doesn't change. It's thabit. It's concrete. The Quran is as it is, and it will never change. No one has the authority to ever change, to take something out or to put something in the Quran, of course. So we take it as our primary source of guidance for us to live in 2018, though it was revealed over 1,400 years ago. So with that, by looking at the decadence of the Muslim community and the Muslim world today, we look at the Muslim world, and it's going in a direction that many feel is not acceptable. Many of the things that are going on in the secular world have crept into the Islamic world, and because of this, the influence is so great that people are losing their religion. People are leaving the deen of Islam. People have begun to change the deen of Islam, and they've begun to accept things that were beforehand unacceptable. And so for Muslims living in the West and a society that in and of itself is a secular society at its root, then what does this mean? How are we to navigate ourselves in a society as Muslims where we're living in danger? We're living not only in physical danger because of the political atmosphere that has been created since 9/11, but living in a psychological unsafe territory where people are living in fear. People are worried about the well-being of their children. People are worried about their job status or their ability to maintain a particular lifestyle living in America. How are we to navigate, or how are we to negotiate our existence in a land like this? Traditionally, you have the scholars did not allow Muslims to move to a land where Islam was not the religion of that land. It was not permissible to live, or to move, rather, from the land of Islam, Dar al-Islam, to Dar al-Kufr, to the land of the disbelievers, for fear of losing one's religion, or fear of being harmed by other groups of people because of one's religion. So the Muslim scholars never allow the Muslim to move from the land of Islam to the land of the disbelievers. So what does that mean? Why is that? Because one of the goals and the objectives of the Sharia was to protect the religion, hifd ad-din. Among others, one of the primary goals was to protect the religion. And in protecting the religion, meaning protecting it by not mixing it with other ideas, outside values, outside ethics that are foreign to Islam. Mixing truth with falsehood. In essence, over a period of time, the gradual degradation of and the demise of what we would call the Deen of Islam. Islam would only be exist in its outward form. The inward meaning and the inward value of Islam would no longer exist because of the mixing. And for this, the ulama, they didn't allow Muslims to move from the land of the Muslims to the land of the kuffar. So what does this mean for Muslims who are born in the West, who are born in America, born in Europe, born in the UK, where the land is as it is. It's already a secular nation. And growing up or becoming or living as a Muslim in that land, is it an obligation for us to leave that land and move to a land where the dominant religion is Islam? Are we living in sin by staying in the West, though we may have an opportunity to move elsewhere? If we are to stay, in what manner are we allowed to stay? In what manner, in other words, what type of lifestyle are we allowed to live while living amongst the kuffar? Should we separate and get our own communities, establish our own communities somewhere in the West where only Muslims live? Or should we live together? Or should we integrate and to assimilate fully into the society with the hopes and aspirations to give da'wah and to proselytize the deen and to convert people to Islam with the hopes that over a period of time the West will become a majority Muslim nation? These are all questions that have arisen over the past and have been dealt with by different people, different groups of people. Many discussions have been held, and there have been thousands of opinions. And so what we're offering here in these courses and this seminar series is a reanalyzation, to reanalyze the book that the Shaykh Uthman Al-Fodio had written years ago, the Bayan Wujub al-Hijra ala al-Ibad, the obligation of the Hijra on the servants of Allah. Now this book caused a lot of controversy in recent time, in America at least, from what I understand. However, it is a book that many have said that is outdated, that the context no longer exists. Now, this particular text, some of the historians say that this was his magnum opus. Others say that the book Ihya al-Sunnah or Ikmad al-Bid'ah was the magnum opus of the Shaykh. But it can be well argued that this book, Bayan Wujub al-Hijra ala al-Ibad, was his magnum opus. There really isn't any particular text in Islamic literature like it. It is a book that deals with not only with the obligation of making hijrah as a part of the tajdeed process, but it deals with jihad as and all the ahkam related to it. In essence, the book was written, the ahkam were taken out of the seminal text of the Maliki Madhab, the Mukhtasar Khalid, and it was applied in this book. But the book, those that say that the book was outdated, what we say is the book is taken from nothing except from the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam, from the ahadith of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Now, is that to say that the Quran is outdated or that the Sunnah or the ahadith is outdated? Of course not. I think any Muslim, no Muslim would ever say something like this. So, what Uthman al-Fayda was writing this book was not necessarily just his opinion, but it was something, he was taking it from relied sources, of the primary source of which was the Quran, and which the book that we all as Muslims rely upon. So how is it that this book can become outdated? So I think that it's pertinent for us and important for us that we revisit the text, especially in our time, especially for the grassroots people. And by grassroots people, I mean those people who have been stigmatized and have been marginalized in society, have been oppressed in society, where they have had very little to no upward mobility. They've been marginalized to the point where the statistics are staggering in terms of the number of deaths, the number of incarcerations, the lack of education, the lack of graduation, the success rate, infant mortality rate, teenage pregnancy rate, AIDS, HIV, all of the categories. We find people at the grassroots, we find either they're number one or number two. And so the question being, as you look forward, at least in the short future or the near future, or even in the long future, the long term, what is our existence going to be in the West as Muslims? And it's something I think that the authority or the leadership in the Muslim community in the West needs to be challenged with. They need to step up to the plate and answer these type of questions. Where are we going? How are we going to get there? Because the way that it's going right now, and we see Muslim groups, people who are calling themselves Muslims, and trying to be part of the Muslim community, now who live alternative lifestyles that Islam does not accept, okay? And they're contaminating our communities, okay? They are diluting truth with falsehood. And we see many leadership who are among the Western academia, those with PhDs, who are influenced by many of the Western ideals and Western values of the Western philosophers, the European philosophers that they study in the universities, which is the basis of their education. And they look through Islam, they look through the prism of these Western philosophy, they look at Islam through this particular prism, and perspective. And if they're given an authority among the Muslim leadership and intellectual leadership, then their understanding is going to be warped. Their understanding is going to conflict with traditional Islam, with the Islam that has stood the test of time, the Islam in which we find in the books of the ulama, the fuqaha, and the awliya. And you can see that there's a lot of confusion. This causes a lot of confusion a lot of disputation, a lot of argumentation among the people, because one is looking at Islam through the prism of Western philosophy, and others are looking at Islam through the prism of the traditional context, the traditional model that has been established for us by the ulama of the past. So at this particular time, we feel that it is incumbent upon us to revisit the book Bayan Wujub al-Hijra ala al-Ibad for different reasons, which we'll get into in subsequent videos. But we will, as a way of introduction, what we wanted to do is to introduce 4 different models or 4 different personalities that could serve and should serve as models and inspiration for the Muslim community in the West. And those models come from West Africa in the form and the personalities of course, one being the Sheikh Usman Danfodio, the other being Al-Hajj Umar Futi Atal, the other Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba of Senegal, and the fourth Sheikh Ibrahim Niasse of Senegal. These 4 personalities established a model for us to follow in the contemporary time, by which we can set out a course of action for our short-term future as well as our long-term future. All 4 came from different periods and different places. They may have had different methodologies, but they all carried some basic and similar and very common characteristics that we want to examine before getting into the book Bayan Wujub al-Hijra, because I think it's pertinent for us to understand the perspective from which we're coming, so that we can all be on the same page and understand where we want to go and to why we want to study this particular text. So this, as an introduction, we want to welcome all of you to the Fayda Institute seminar series as we seek to establish the vision of Tajdeed for Muslims living in the West, for now and for the future. And we invite you to, now that you're a registered member of the Institute, we invite you all to join us for our classes that we have ongoing. And we are adding and we are developing more programs to serve the Muslim community, to establish the first step of the process of renewal and tajdeed, which is education, which we will learn about in the coming video, inshallah. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a series of videos. How many? I don't know at this particular point, because they are pre-recorded videos. And so to upload them, we don't want to make the file too big, because it takes a long time. It will take a long time to upload. This way, if we keep it at each lesson about 30 to 40 minutes, it will suffice as terms of one time having a lot of information given to you at one time. At the same time, it will make it easy for us to upload the video and get it to you as soon as possible. So this first video, we wanted to serve as an introduction, as a welcome to all of you, that we're honored to have you as a student in our seminar series. And this will be a very interesting and very dynamic course that we seek to answer, or to at least to present the hard questions, and to map out a course by which we can, like Malcolm said, make ourselves appear to be intelligent instead of unintelligent as we go forth in our existence in the West as Muslims, and what it is and how it is we are to live, and what methodology we're going to employ. So inshallah, thank you for joining us. Our second video will be in the coming days. You'll get the notification. And if you have any questions, you're able to ask any questions or to bring up any comments you have on the Google Classroom, on the section where we have the seminar series. You're able to ask any questions and to bring forth anything you want to the discussion. I'll read it beforehand and we'll discuss it during the course time, and we'll do it this way. I think that this way is easier for everyone because you're able to watch the videos at your own leisure time, whenever you like, as many times as you like. Okay? So, inshallah, we look forward to a very dynamic series, a very interesting series, to a very important and pertinent analysis and topic. Allahumma, thank you for joining us. Inshallah, we'll see you in the next video. Allahumma salli wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi tasliman kathira. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wa salamun ala mursaleen. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.